It's tough to imagine Emmerdale without Cain Dingle, isn't it? He's been the resident bad boy with a heart of, well, maybe not gold, but definitely something shiny and redeemable, for so long that his absence would leave a gaping hole in the village. But what if the unthinkable were to happen? What if Cain Dingle met his maker? How would it play out, and what would be the fallout? Let's dive deep into a scenario that would shake Emmerdale to its very foundations. The storm gathers, a quiet threat. It wouldn't be a dramatic Cain Dingle exit without a build-up, would it? We're talking about a slow burn, a creeping dread that starts small. Imagine this. Cain, ever the protector, gets involved in something that seems, at first, like typical Dingle drama, a rival family, a dodgy deal gone wrong. But this time, it's different. Perhaps it begins with a new face in the village, someone unassuming. Let's call him Marcus Thorne. He's charming, seems legitimate, maybe even offers Cain a lucrative business opportunity. Cain, always looking out for his family, especially Moira and Kyle, might see it as a chance to finally go straight to secure their future. But Marcus isn't what he seems. He's a meticulously patient, calculating individual with a long-standing grudge, a vendetta against the Dingles that dates back years, stemming from an old, almost forgotten incident involving Zach or Shadrach. Initially, it's subtle, small, unsettling events, a near-miss accident with Kyle, a break-in at the farm where nothing is stolen, but things are subtly rearranged, a coded threat left for Moira. Cain, with his finely tuned instincts for danger, picks up on it. He dismisses it at first, attributing it to old enemies or just bad luck. But the incidents escalate, becoming more targeted, more personal. This is where the emotional hooks come in. We see Cain's vulnerability. He's used to being the one in control, the one doling out the threats. But now he's on the receiving end, and the target isn't just him, it's his family. The fear he tries to suppress, the sleepless nights spent watching over Moira and Kyle, the quiet conversations with Zach where he admits, for the first time, that he's genuinely rattled. This makes him relatable, human, stripping away the impenetrable facade he usually presents. Moira, ever the pragmatist, might initially urge caution to go to the police. But Cain, stubborn to his core, insists on handling it his way. He tries to track down Marcus, to uncover his motives, to confront him head-on. This pursuit becomes an obsession, drawing him further into Marcus's web. The fatal flaw, a moment of recklessness. The climax wouldn't be a sudden ambush. It would be a trap, set with surgical precision, exploiting Cain's greatest strengths and weaknesses. Marcus would know Cain's protective instincts, his fierce loyalty. He'd use it against him. Perhaps Marcus engineers a situation where Kyle is seemingly in danger. A staged incident, a deliberate near-kidnapping, designed to lure Cain into a specific location. Cain, driven by pure instinct and paternal love, would rush in without thinking, without his usual precautions. This is where the conversion part of our story kicks in. We're invested in Cain's plight. We understand his motivations, and we're desperately hoping he makes it out alive. The setting could be somewhere iconic but isolated in Emmerdale, the old barn, the woods, a deserted quarry. It's dark, stormy, mirroring the internal turmoil. Cain arrives, adrenaline pumping, ready to face down whatever threat awaits Kyle. But Kyle isn't there. It was all a diversion. And then Marcus emerges from the shadows, not with a weapon in hand, but with a cold, unsettling calmness. He finally reveals his full hand, explaining the depth of his hatred, the long-held grudge. It's not a quick, clean fight. It's a psychological battle as much as a physical one. Cain, disoriented by the realization he's been tricked, is still formidable. But Marcus has prepared. He's not a brawler, he's a strategist. The fight is brutal, desperate. Cain, despite his years of street fighting and brawling, is caught off guard, physically and emotionally drained from weeks of paranoia. He fights with the ferocity of a cornered animal, fueled by the image of his family. But Marcus has the upper hand, perhaps having rigged the location or set up a distraction that gives him the decisive blow. And here it comes, the moment of death. It wouldn't be a heroic sacrifice where he saves someone. It would be a consequence of his own recklessness, his refusal to seek help, his belief that he could handle anything. Perhaps he's impaled on a sharp piece of machinery in the barn, or falls from a great height in the quarry after a struggle. The wound would be horrific, but not immediately fatal, allowing for a few agonizing, heart-wrenching moments. The farewell, a gut-wrenching goodbye. This is where the emotional core hits its peak. As Cain lies dying, Marcus wouldn't stay to gloat. He'd simply disappear, leaving Cain alone in his final moments. But he wouldn't be truly alone. Just as the life begins to fade from his eyes, Moira arrives. She's been following him, her own instincts screaming that something was terribly wrong. She finds him, bleeding, broken, but still Cain. The scene is raw, unfiltered grief. Moira, usually so strong, crumbles. Her pleas for him to hold on, her desperate attempts to comfort him. Cain, in his last breaths, wouldn't be focused on revenge or anger. His focus would be entirely on Moira and Kyle. He'd express his love, his regrets, his fear for their future without him. He'd make her promise to look after Kyle, to tell him how much his dad loved him. He might even admit, finally, that he was scared, a moment of profound vulnerability that would resonate deeply with viewers. His final words wouldn't be a grand declaration, but something simple, something utterly Cain. "Look after him, Moira, please." And then his eyes would glaze over, his hand falling limp in hers. The aftermath, a village in mourning. Cain Dingle's death would send shockwaves through Emmerdale. The initial discovery, the police investigation, the realization that Marcus Thorne has vanished without a trace. It would be chaotic. The impact on the Dingle family would be devastating. Zach, already frail, would be heartbroken, losing his son. Chas would be furious, grief-stricken, vowing revenge. But it's Moira and Kyle who would bear the brunt of it. Moira, consumed by grief and guilt, blaming herself for not stopping him. Kyle, too young to fully comprehend, would be confused, asking where his dad is, and then later growing up with the shadow of his father's violent death hanging over him. Other characters would react in their own ways. Aaron, having lost his own father figure in Cain, would regress, perhaps spiraling into old destructive habits before finding a way to honor Cain's memory. Charity, despite their tumultuous relationship, would feel a profound sense of loss, a part of her past gone forever. Even characters who had been Cain's enemies, like Al Chapman, if he were still around, would acknowledge the enormity of his absence. The village would be shrouded in a unique kind of sorrow. Cain was many things: a bully, a lawbreaker, a protector. But he was undeniably a pillar of Emmerdale, a constant force. His death would create a vacuum that no one could fill. The legacy, moving forward, but never forgetting. Cain's death wouldn't just be an event, it would be a catalyst. Moira, fueled by grief and a desire for justice, might become a formidable force, perhaps even seeking out Marcus Thorne herself, embodying a piece of Cain's own fire. Kyle's journey of growing up without his father, understanding his legacy, and potentially falling into similar patterns or choosing a different path, would be a compelling storyline for years to come. The Dingle family, though broken, would inevitably rally together, finding strength in their shared grief. Cain's absence would force them to adapt, to grow, and to redefine what it means to be a Dingle without their strongest, albeit most complicated, protector. The high conversion aspect here is not about selling a product, but about converting viewers into deeply invested emotional participants. We want them to feel the gut punch of Cain's death, to mourn with the characters, to wonder how the village will ever recover. The high engagement comes from the slow build, the escalating tension, the relatable fear, and the deeply personal nature of Cain's final moments. Ultimately, Cain Dingle's death would be a defining moment in Emmerdale history. It would be raw, tragic, and utterly unforgettable, leaving a legacy that resonates for years to come. It would remind us that even the toughest characters have vulnerabilities, that love can be both a strength and a fatal flaw, and that some losses leave a void that can never truly be filled. And that, in a nutshell, is the enduring power of a character like Cain Dingle.